Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2014 Hooding Ceremony for doctoral candidates at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. We're going to keep doing a lot of that today. I'd like to ask you now to please rise for the national anthem. Leading us in the national anthem is Wesley Miller, candidate for the Bachelor of Arts in Music.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. Thank you. Of all the traditions in the Academy, this is one of the most significant, the awarding of the degree, Doctor of Philosophy. The use of the word philosophy in this context comes from the Greek love of wisdom. And achieving the doctorate, of course, recognizes the work and depth that is required to one who seeks wisdom. It is such a privilege to be here with all of you as we celebrate this very important moment in all of your lives, but also in the lives and the future of our university and the nation. With the hooding of our outstanding doctoral candidates today, we're honoring each one of your own rigorous and deeply personal journeys into understanding, philosophy, and discovery. You're making discoveries that not only make Chapel Hill such an outstanding university, but they are fueling the future of our state and advancing our nation and our understanding across the entire breadth of human endeavor. We're also celebrating today the start of your next phase in life and all the ways that you're going to continue throughout your life to discover, perhaps to teach, to learn, to serve, and as we all hope one day, to truly achieve wisdom. But your world is very different from mine when I completed my own PhD. When you graduate today, you're much more likely than I was to take your own academic future into an incredible diversity of places: the classroom, the laboratory, the studio, the corporate office, social enterprise, government. Truly, you will be expanding a truly global world. Steve Jobs once said, "Your work is going to fill a very large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do truly great work is to love what you do." But by the way, I also want to say, in case you're worried, none other than Benjamin Franklin said, "An investment in knowledge pays the best interest." So all of us here today admire you, and we think that you've made a great and wonderful investment. And we know that your love of knowledge will be what will ensure you will continue to love what you do. So now we're going to proceed with this very special day, and I'd like to begin by recognizing people joining us on stage today. First, I'm pleased to introduce the Chair of the Board of Trustees of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Lowry Caudell. Lowry graduated from Carolina with a chemistry degree in 1979. He's an investor and entrepreneur who also has an adjunct appointment in the Department of Chemistry and is very active in our entrepreneur programs. Dr. Caudell will bring greetings from the Board of Trustees.
On behalf of the Board of Trustees of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, I offer our congratulations on your achievements and best wishes for your future success. Thank you for the contributions you have made to research, teaching, and service at Carolina. You have helped develop new ways to explore, discover, and implement, and added new knowledge that will benefit the people of North Carolina and the world. Carolina's commitment to excellence and service brought you to Chapel Hill. I hope that you will carry that legacy with you to your next destination. Remember what you learned here. You can change the world. That's what we're doing at Carolina, and that's what you've been doing in your time at Carolina. You will always have our support. Thank you.
Thank you, Lowry. I would like to now introduce other members of the platform party. Distinguished members of our faculty present today include Joseph Farrell, the Albert Coates Professor and Secretary of the Faculty. Thank you. Jan Boxall, Master Lecturer in Philosophy, Director of the Parr Center for Ethics, and Chair of the Faculty. And David Fennig, Royster Professor of Graduate Education. I'd also like to recognize Christopher Derrickson, our University Registrar, and James Dean, the Executive Vice Chancellor and Provost. It's now my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Steve Mattson, Dean of the Graduate School.
Thank you, Chancellor Folt, and good morning. For close to 150 years, the University of North Carolina has been engaged in graduate training, preparing our future scientists, teachers, leaders, healthcare professionals, business leaders, and public servants. Your work here has advanced the mission of the university in research, teaching, and public service. Now, as our future leaders, we're counting on you to continue that good work and to take on the big challenges. Whether your goal is to conduct groundbreaking research, to teach, or to provide earnest public leadership, we know you will share with others what you've learned here. As you go out into the world, carry Carolina's standard of excellence with you. I would like to recognize the many diverse disciplines that are represented in the ceremony today. The graduate school oversees more than 80 programs with significant breadth and depth in the doctoral and master's degrees that we offer, from American studies to psychology, from biochemistry to public policy. Today, graduates and faculty from these diverse disciplines come together to share in the joy and pride of the doctorate degree being conferred on this group of scholars. At this time, it's my pleasure to introduce Kiran Bhardwaj, outgoing president of the Graduate and Professional Student Federation at Carolina.
It's my honor to introduce our distinguished keynote speaker, Dr. Timothy Beatley. Dr. Beatley is the Teresa Hines Professor of Sustainable Communities in the Department of Urban and Environmental Planning within the University of Virginia's School of Architecture. He's also a graduate alumnus of Carolina, having received his doctorate in city and regional planning and his master's degree in political science from our university. Dr. Beatley also holds a master's degree in urban planning from the University of Oregon and received his bachelor's degree in city planning from UVA. Dr. Beatley has written or co-written more than 15 books. The American Planning Association has recognized his book, Ethical Land Use, as one of its 100 essential books in planning. His research covers crucial issues for our times. Among these issues is nature's influence in sustaining a high quality of community life. In his book, Biophilic Cities, Integrating Nature into Urban Design and Planning, Dr. Beatley shares a remarkable message of how living in close contact with nature improves our lives and improves cities where people go about their daily lives. He's an award-winning teacher and researcher, and we are so pleased that Dr. Timothy Beatley will be giving the keynote address at our ceremony this morning. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Beatley back to Carolina.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Karen, and thanks to Chancellor Folt and all the other distinguished guests here today. It's just a pleasure to be here and a great honor to have the chance to offer some thoughts as you begin your scholarly journeys. I want to first acknowledge how grateful I am to this institution and to the many professors and faculty here who gave so generously of their time and wisdom so many years ago. I also want to begin by saying how very lucky you are to be graduating from here. Looking back, I was very well prepared for the path that I followed, and my time here was a remarkable period of growth. Most of the questions that I continue to work on today actually found their genesis here at UNC. So I'm a city planner and an urbanist, and I can't remember a time when it was more interesting to be these things. There are incredible urban challenges ahead, and we need your help with them. So it may seem a little bit self-serving, but I'd like to request that in whatever work you do, please think about cities. There is a remarkable global transformation underway as we move to a predominantly urban world. More than half our global population now lives in cities, and the percentage is rising, likely to be 70% by 2050. These trends represent enormous challenges, and we will need to profoundly rethink cities, how they function, how they're planned, how they're managed. I've argued that we need to understand them as ecosystems and aspire to a model of cities based on the example of nature. Cities that conserve and recycle water and materials, that grow much of the food they need, that produce all or most of the energy needed through renewable technologies integrated into the built environment. We'll need in the future to do a better job understanding the metabolism of cities and a better job connecting and sustaining the global hinterlands and supply lines that today's cities rely on. Much of my own work, as you've heard, involves how to ensure that humans have access to nature in the natural world that they need. They need to be happy, healthy, and to lead meaningful lives. This is the central insight behind the concept of biophilia, what E.O. Wilson refers to as the, quote, innately emotional affiliation of human beings to other living organisms. There's more and more evidence about the power of nature. My favorite research comes from Japan, where they speak of forest bathing, Shinrin-yoku, and they've documented the physiological and mental health benefits of walks in the woods, such as lowered levels of stress hormones, boosts to our immune system. In the UK, recordings of local bird songs are being used to calm children about to receive inoculations. And we know that even views of nature out of windows have restorative healing powers. Experimental psychology shows we're more likely to be generous in the presence of nature. Several studies show that we score higher on creativity tests in the presence of nature. So thus we need what I call biophilic cities, cities that in their physical form and design put nature at the core, give the highest priority to maximizing connections and contact with the natural world. Not nature that you visit only occasionally, at great distance away and at great time and expense, but the nature that is ideally everywhere around you, the everyday nature, some would call it. So we started in 2010 something called the Biophilic Cities Project, and just this past fall we launched the Global Biophilic Cities Network beginning with our 10 partner cities and now expanding beyond it, connecting cities, creating a kind of global peer network. These emerging biophilic cities are aspiring to remarkable things, actually. In one partner city, Wellington, New Zealand, there's a 500-acre sanctuary where they're attempting to bring back the native fauna, especially birds, that have been decimated by introduced species. Their tagline is bringing back the bird songs to Wellington, and they're having great success already. It's an intriguing idea that a city might judge its progress, its long-term success, in terms of how many residents are able to hear bird sounds. One of the important questions that we've been exploring is whether there is something like a minimum daily requirement of nature. And if so, what is it? I'm not sure what it is or what the level is, but I do think it exists. And that to be happy, healthy, productive human beings, we need that everyday nature, or that every hour nature, I should say. But can we design cities and urban neighborhoods that reconnect us to the natural world? And if so, how? Can we drape ourselves in trees and greenery, nature of all sorts in cities? Increasingly, the answer is yes. In Singapore, another one of our partner cities, they've been rethinking their vision, and they've changed their city motto from Garden City to City in a Garden. A subtle but important change. There's power in understanding the city not as somewhere where there are parks that you can occasionally visit, but rather as a park, an ecosystem in which buildings and homes sit. And Singapore is helping us understand how that vision works in practice. There's a hospital there, for instance, where we've been writing about and studying, where they're harnessing the healing power of nature in every way. There are multiple levels of green rooftops, window boxes, a central green courtyard with a waterfall, even an urban farm on the roof with 120 fruit trees. And best of all, it's being judged, it's judging its success not just in terms of healing, the number of healing patients it has, but the numbers of species of birds and butterflies seen on site. There is a remarkable amount of biodiversity in nature already in cities. We know this. And in many cases, there's a wonderful kind of hybrid wildness there. And we're increasingly engaging this in creative ways. Rooftop camping in New York City, lost river walks in Toronto, guerrilla gardening in Tokyo, creation of parklets, little parks in San Francisco created out of 2 or 3 on-street car parking spaces. In Richmond, the capital city of my state, there's something called the Pipeline Trail along the James River, literally a hike on top of the river, on top of a utility pipe. Richmond is actually a great example of a wild and biophilic city with Class 5 rapids, nesting bald eagles, a heron rookery, all a stone's throw away from downtown. And there are many other cities like this. But cities need your help, and so whatever your field of study is, your work can come to the aid of cities. How you do your work, though, also matters. Increasingly, we recognize the essential need to work in cross-disciplinary teams and to draw on the expertise and perspectives of other disciplines. This is not always easy to do. There are lots of obstacles, lots of things that are uncomfortable about it, learning the different languages, the literatures, and research methods, for instance, but the benefits are often great. I would challenge you to set a personal goal of seeking out and sharing your work with those in disciplines that may seem the most remote from your own. It's in these fertile areas of cross-disciplinary work where new discourse, new knowledge, new inventions will happen. And be open when someone calls or stops by with a crazy idea about collaborating. One example is John Marsluff's work at the University of Washington to understand the danger recognition in crows. He had the idea of conducting brain scans on crows and approached the faculty in the university's radiology department about collaborating. We don't know how to scan crow brains, they said, but we'll try. And they did. And it was a very successful collaboration leading to new insights into how similar the corvid and human brains, in fact, are. Be sure also that the research teams that you form and the projects you undertake are inclusive in every respect. One of the major problems we continue to face today is profound gender inequality. The disempowerment and marginalization of half our population deprives us of immense knowledge, energy, insights that we need. Several years ago, I had the privilege of interviewing Vandana Shiva, Indian physicist and activist. Gender is key, Shiva told me, to understanding environment, and she directly ties the condition of women to the health and condition of our planet. We will never stop violence against nature and animals unless we also stop violence against women, she believes. And in the feminine, she sees the basis for a more harmonious, nonviolent relationship to Earth and to each other. In few areas do we miss the work and perspectives of women more than in the design of cities and built environments. And the record of inclusion is a poor one, I'm afraid. Of licensed architects in the U.S., only 15% are women. It is much better, I think, in urban planning, but it highlights the essential mind shift and work we all need to do to harness all the talent and to create the inclusive professions and scholarship we want and need. You will also have unprecedented opportunities to actively engage the public in what you're doing. We are now squarely in the era of citizen science, and the ability to knit together researchers on the ground in countries and places around the world is exciting. We must begin to see the larger public as co-collaborators, as co-producers of knowledge, and we are. Networks of engaged and highly motivated individuals are taking snapshots of marine life with their smartphones, watching for northern right whales from coastal balconies, counting birds, becoming parabotanists, and 1,000 other things that will help advance knowledge. Also, look for creative ways to deliver your messages. I've been known to do things that are a little unconventional, like reading poetry in class and handing it out at midterm and final exams. But surprising your students is part of the fun and a remarkably effective teaching tool. In our Biophilic Cities project, we're increasingly using films and filmmaking as a powerful way to share knowledge, build communities, and tell compelling stories. And here, the changes in technology compared to when I graduated work in our favor, work in your favor. As an example, we've recently made a low-cost, relatively low-tech film about Singapore. We put it on YouTube, and it's been already watched by thousands of people around the world. I hope that you don't forget to speak your mind and be courageous. Understand that your work can and must address the difficult societal and global problems we're facing. It is a great privilege to have a hand in the creation of knowledge, but don't be overly timid. We need you speaking your mind and speaking truth to power. Indeed, it's an absolutely essential counterbalance to the political rhetoric, posturing, and rigid ideology that so often carries the day. The scholars and scientists I have been most impressed by over the years, from Jim Hansen of NASA to Jane Goodall, have been those not afraid to speak their minds, not afraid to become involved in the messy realms of policy and politics. One of the examples of inspiration and courage for me is Rachel Carson. 2 falls ago, my students and I organized an exhibition to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the publication of her important book, Silent Spring. It was a watershed book that helped us to understand the long-term and persistent ecological impacts of pesticides. I had the opportunity to do some writing about her life and even a chance to visit the living room in her Maryland home where she wrote Silent Spring. It's important to remember that she faced a firestorm of criticism when she published that book, much of it misogynistic. But of course, she made a remarkable difference, essentially igniting what became our modern environmental movement. The last bit of advice I'd like to offer is to encourage you to do whatever you can to keep mindful of the wonder and amazement that probably got you interested in the subjects you've now mastered. Find a way, if you can, to foster your own sense of personal amazement at the incredible worlds you're helping to uncover. In your efforts to do careful research, write measured books and articles, and do what you must to get tenure, don't forget to be excited by what you find, to have fun, to celebrate what we know about the large and the small. Whether you study supernovas or chemical reactions or deep-sea environments, it will be fascinating to you. Recognize and cultivate in yourself that sense of wonder, and it will then infectiously spill over to others. Rachel Carson thought a lot about the importance of wonder and awe. She wrote an influential essay about it, published in the July 1956 issue of a magazine called Women's Home Companion. Here she spoke eloquently about imparting the gift of wonder. "If I had influence with the good fairy," she said, "who is supposed to preside over the christening of all children, I should ask that her gift to each child in the world be a sense of wonder so indestructible that it would last throughout life, as an unfailing antidote against the boredom and disenchantments of later years." Beautiful. So I wish for you a career of wonder as an unfailing antidote against the boredoms and disenchantments of academia, grading papers, faculty meetings, feuding colleagues, salary raises that are fewer and farther between than you would like. There will be some boredoms and disenchantments, to be sure, but keep your eye on the ball. There will be lots of wonderful moments, privileged moments, to shape and guide and nurture students and institutions, and lots of chances for you to feed your own sense of wonder. So these are just a few thoughts as you leave this beautiful campus. You've received a terrific education and a wonderful foundation for what lies ahead. I know because I did as well, and I wish you all the best in these future endeavors. Thank you for inviting me to speak, and I'd like to end with a poem by Mary Oliver, one of my favorite poets, who often captures the spirit and feeling of biophilic places. The poem is called "The Other Kingdoms." Consider the other kingdoms, the trees, for example, with their mellow-sounding titles, oak, aspen, willow, or the snow, for which the people of the North have dozens of words to describe its different arrivals, or the creatures with their thick fur, their shy and wordless gaze, their infallible sense of what their lives are meant to be. Thus the world grows rich, grows wild, and you too grow rich, grow sweetly wild, as you too were born to be. So try to stay in touch with your wild and biophilic selves, and I congratulate you on this very special day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Beatley. Now, I ask the first row of candidates for doctoral degrees to come forward as directed by the graduate marshals. As we prepare to recognize our graduates, I want to take just a moment to explain the significance of the commencement hood. The hooding ceremony is derived from medieval university traditions. In the 12th and 13th centuries, when universities were taking shape, they were under the jurisdiction of the church. Those studying wore a habit or cloak to which was attached a cowl or a hood. The hood seems to have had three uses: a covering, a shoulder cape, and a bag for collecting alms. Many of us have heard a story, whether it's true or not, of the small cup formed by the folds of cloth at the back of the hood being used as a receptacle for coins offered by grateful students after a particularly inspiring lecture. Oh, we wish. The colors in the hood symbolize school and broad discipline, as explained in your program. The presentation of the hood by the student's mentor symbolizes the welcoming of a graduate as a full-fledged member of the community of scholars. As I call each doctoral candidate and his or her advisor, I ask that the student and advisor proceed onto the stage. At this point, the advisor and provost dean will ceremoniously place the hood on the student. The student and advisor will then proceed to the farthest end of the stage to receive congratulations from Chancellor Folt. If the student's advisor is not present, Provost Dean and Royster Professor David Fenig will present the hood to the student. I want to call your attention to those students who are wearing gold cords. These students are members of the Royster Society of Fellows, the graduate school's most prestigious graduate fellowship program. There is a professional photographer at the foot of the stage who will be taking photos of each graduate, and we encourage family and friends to take photos after the ceremony is completed. Molly Melissa Williams, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by Sandra Green. Amy Wolken, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by Sandra Green. Stephanie N. Watson Grant, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by Sandra Green. Jennifer Ludovich, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by Sandra Green. Deborah Paoni, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by Sandra Green. Patricia M. Pozella, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by Ned Brooks. Daniel Elliott Harper, Psychology, being hooded by Mark Hollins. Beasley Grow, Biochemistry and Biophysics, being hooded by William Marslow. Jessica Rachel Keys, Epidemiology, being hooded by William Marslow. Benjamas Succeeded, Nursing, being hooded by Todd Schwartz. Carolyn Susan Huffman, Nursing, being hooded by Kristen Swanson. Estefan Moana Filho, Oral Biology, being hooded by Richard Graceley. Richard Hajime Wynn, Biomedical Engineering, being hooded by Mark Tommerdahl. Eric Matthew Francisco, Biomedical Engineering, being hooded by Mark Tommerdahl. Elizabeth Marie Holdsworth Law, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by Joseph Morrissey. Mona Kilani, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by Joe Morrissey. Liang Shan, Computer Science, being hooded by Mark Neithammer. Joseph P. Tai, being hooded by Mark Neithammer. Sarah Elizabeth Sennett, Neurobiology, being hooded by the Provost. Kylie Marie Miller, School Psychology, being hooded by Stephen Hooper. Morgan Lindsay Chateau, Microbiology and Immunology, being hooded by Victor Garcia. Adam David Greats, Cell and Molecular Physiology, being hooded by Scott Magnus. Nicholas Carl Dobes, Chemistry, being hooded by Nancy Albritton. Nicole A. Hagen, Environmental Sciences and Engineering, being hooded by David Leith. Wesley Langdon Storm, Chemistry, being hooded by Mark Shanefish. April Holland, Chemistry, being hooded by Mark Shanefish. Rebecca Bauer, Toxicology, being hooded by Iona Jaspers. Anne Karen Burler, History, being hooded by William Barney. Ashley Michelle Mays, History, being hooded by Donald Matthews. Chang Hoon Kim, Business Administration, being hooded by Richard Bettis. Maria Merced Ailman, Pathology, being hooded by Alyssa Wahlberg. Stephen Michael Daigle, Physics, being hooded by Arthur Champagne. Jia Yi Cheng, Biology, being hooded by Joseph Kieber. Stephen Peter Soikya, Biology, being hooded by Joseph Kieber. Lu Zhang, Oral Biology, being hooded by Eric Everett. Chaitanya Prakash Puranik, Oral Biology, being hooded by Eric Everett. Luke William Mills, English, being hooded by Joseph S. Wittig. Lisa Ann Goebel, Public Policy, being hooded by Marianne Feldman. Shelley D. Golden, Public Policy, being hooded by Krista Piera. John Douglas Galemore, Business Administration, being hooded by Edward L. Maydew. Alicia Parker Cowens, Business Administration, being hooded by Wayne Landsman. Jinghan Meng, Business Administration, being hooded by Wayne Landsman. Deirdre Gobe Schneider, Business Administration, being hooded by Allison Fregale. Virginia Ruth Stewart, Business Administration, being hooded by Benson Rosen. Samantha Lee Eisenberg, Chemistry, being hooded by Gary Glish. Serena Suzette Witzke, Classics, being hooded by Sharon James. Katie Margaret Harper, Psychology, being hooded by David Penn. Christopher Jason Wells, Musicology, being hooded by David F. Garcia. William Thomas Boone, Musicology, being hooded by Jocelyn Neal. Christopher Michael Reale, Musicology, being hooded by Jocelyn Neal. Ryan Scott Ebright, Musicology, being hooded by Mark Katz. Marta Sismachinsky, Carpentier, Genetics and Molecular Biology, being hooded by the Provost. W.H. Davin Townley Tilson, Cell and Developmental Biology, being hooded by the Provost. Megan Lynn Morgan Smith, Neurobiology, being hooded by the Provost. Ghazi Ishak Kara, Economics, being hooded by Anusha Chari. Dipali Bang, Cell and Developmental Biology, being hooded by Anusha Chari. Mohono Sarkar, Chemistry, being hooded by Gary Pilak. Simi Huang, Mathematics, being hooded by Peter Muka and Greg Forrest. Feng Shi, Mathematics, being hooded by Peter Muka. Laura Ann Schabel, Information and Library Science, being hooded by Diane Kelly. Yingqi Lu, Physics, being hooded by Renee Lopez. Matthew Warren Lauder, Psychology, being hooded by Peter C. Gordon. Pei Sun Chu, Pharmacology, being hooded by the Provost. Allison Page Sanders, Environmental Sciences and Engineering, being hooded by Rebecca C. Fry. Raju Yashaswi Prasad, Environmental Sciences and Engineering, being hooded by David DiMarini and Rebecca Fry. Mercedes Bail Arjian, Romance Languages and Literatures, being hooded by Jessica Tanner. Martha B. Vanderdrift, Romance Languages and Literatures, being hooded by Jessica Tanner. Carlos Obreo Mendoza, Romance Languages, being hooded by Juan Carlos Gonzalez Espatilla. Metelo Mugnai, Romance Languages and Literatures, being hooded by Juan Carlos Gonzalez Espatilla. Neil D. Anderson, Romance Languages and Literatures, being hooded by Samuel Amago. Kaiji Motiji, Economics, being hooded by Saraswata Chodhuri. David Tyler Frazier, Economics, being hooded by Saraswata Chodhuri. Leonardo Fabio Morales Zurita, Economics, being hooded by David Gilkey. Ryan Charles Burke, Economics, being hooded by Brian McManus. Christopher John Cronin, Economics, being hooded by Donna Gillespie. Jennifer Lynn Cronin, Communication Studies, being hooded by Donna Gillespie. Krista Leigh Black, Art History, being hooded by Dorothy Verker. Sarah Frances Andres, Cell and Molecular Physiology, being hooded by Tope Keku. Caitlin Elizabeth Tolbert, Cell and Developmental Biology, being hooded by Keith Burridge. Erin Nile, Cell and Developmental Biology, being hooded by Keith Burridge. Russell Byther Terry, Political Science, being hooded by Lars Schultz. Martha E. King, Anthropology, being hooded by Dorothy Holland. Joseph Luke Wiltberger, Anthropology, being hooded by Dorothy Holland. Ali Colleen Neff, Communication Studies, being hooded by Christopher Nelson. Chad Morgan, Information and Library Science, being hooded by Joanne Gard Marshall. Colin Scott Campbell, Sociology, being hooded by Arnie Kalleberg. Emily Elizabeth McKendry Smith, Sociology, being hooded by Lisa Pierce. Zhuzhu Zhang, Bioinformatics and Computational Biology, being hooded by Terry Fury. Christopher Dennis Packey, Microbiology and Immunology, being hooded by the Provost. Jianchan Yang, Sociology, being hooded by Howard Aldrich. Timothy S. Kumpari, Sociology, being hooded by Howard Aldrich. Laura R. Wagner, Anthropology, being hooded by Peter Redfield. Elizabeth A. Hennessy, Geography, being hooded by Margaret Weiner. Annalise Margaretha Goger, Geography, being hooded by Altha Cravey. Andrew Roberts, Mathematics, being hooded by Christopher Jones. Bevan Laurel Maltzby, Mathematics, being hooded by Christopher Jones. Justin M. Allman, Mathematics, being hooded by Richard Rimagni. Michael Andrew Abel, Mathematics, being hooded by Richard Rimagni. Ritwik Chaudhuri, Statistics and Operations Research, being hooded by Shankar Bhamidi. Zhuan Wang, Statistics and Operations Research, being hooded by Amarjit Buhajraja and Shankar Bahamidi. Erica M. Haney, Maternal and Child Health, being hooded by Kavita Singh. Elaine Elizabeth Murdoch, Maternal and Child Health, being hooded by Miriam Labak. Elizabeth Tom Clark Jensen, Epidemiology, being hooded by Matthew Longnecker. Rachel Ann Baker, Biochemistry and Biophysics, being hooded by Darwin Glassford. Gowrie Dixit, Biochemistry and Biophysics, being hooded by Henrik Dolman. Kimberly Noel Kutz, History, being hooded by John F. Casson. George Christoph Gerlamatos, History, being hooded by Christopher Browning. Aaron Todd Hale Dorrell, History, being hooded by Donald J. Raleigh. Brandon Kyron Winford, History, being hooded by Jerma A. Jackson. Kristen Josie Dolan, History, being hooded by Wayne E. Lee. Sarah Ayako Barksdale, History, being hooded by Wayne Lee. Mary Elizabeth Basili Chopas, History, being hooded by Wayne Lee. Margaret Carol Martin, History, being hooded by Wayne Lee. Elizabeth Adams, Psychology, being hooded by Beth E. Kurtz Costas. Sarah Boding, Psychology, being hooded by Dawn Baucom. Emily Margaret Noel Pisetsky, Psychology, being hooded by Donald Baucom. Lara Jean C. Costa, Education, being hooded by Jeffrey A. Green. Malia Ann Ward, Pharmaceutical Sciences, being hooded by Gong Fong. Jose Zavala Mendez, Environmental Sciences and Engineering, being hooded by William Vizuet. Evan Andrew Kozo, Environmental Sciences and Engineering, being hooded by William Vizuet. Kenneth McCabe, Physics, being hooded by David Brady. Frederica Bruhoffener, History, being hooded by Karen Hegeman. James Franklin Williamson, History, being hooded by Karen Hegeman. David Bradley Proctor, History, being hooded by W. Fitzhugh Brundage. Lance Elliott LaGrue, History, being hooded by Richard Talbert. Warren Eugene Milter Jr., History, being hooded by Kathleen Duvall. Anna L. Crome-Lukens, History, being hooded by Kathleen Duvall. Jessica C. Wilkerson, History, being hooded by Kathleen Duvall. Jennifer May Donnelly, History, being hooded by Kathleen Duvall. Rachel M. Hinson, History, being hooded by Catherine Burns. Leslie Fox, Education, being hooded by Samuel L. Odom. Christopher Thomas Smith, Neurobiology, being hooded by Charlotte A. Bottiger. Julia Madeline Schauder, Psychology, being hooded by Andrea Husong. Michael Grady Wheaton, Psychology, being hooded by John Abramowitz. Noah Chase Berman, Psychology, being hooded by Jonathan Abramowitz. Hillary Ann Langley, Psychology, being hooded by Peter A. Ornstein. Maggie Hood Bromberg, Psychology, being hooded by Karen M. Gill. Elizabeth E. Hibbard, Human Movement Science, being hooded by Joseph B. Myers. Julianne Schmidt, Human Movement Science, being hooded by Kevin Guskowitz. Zachary Y. Kerr, Epidemiology, being hooded by Steve Marshall. Pamela Whitney Klein, Epidemiology, being hooded by Peter Leone. Layla Family, Epidemiology, being hooded by Andy Olshan. Jessica Leigh Petrick, Epidemiology, being hooded by Marilee Gammon. Lauren Marie Sanford, Art History, being hooded by Carol McGee. Charles Ware, Environmental Sciences and Engineering, being hooded by Karen Yates. Adam Wade Jordan, Education, being hooded by Melissa Miller and William B. Ware. Anna Robinson Van Meter, Psychology, being hooded by Eric Youngstrom. Melissa M. Jenkins, Psychology, being hooded by Eric Youngstrom. Maria I. Martinez, Psychology, being hooded by Eric Youngstrom. Andrew Justin Freeman, Psychology, being hooded by Eric Youngstrom. Darren Sean Ernest, Education, being hooded by Gregory Zazik. Carrie Moore DeBink, Microbiology and Immunology, being hooded by Mark Heisa. Jonathan Sugum, Psychology, being hooded by Regina Corelli. Christopher Joseph Fargo, Mass Communication, being hooded by Joe Bob Hester. Megan Harney, Psychology, being hooded by Anna Bardone Cohn. Jacqueline M. White, Ecology, being hooded by Robert K. Peet. Kyle Ann Palmquist, Ecology, being hooded by Robert K. Peet and Alan Weekly. J. Elliott Robinson, Neurobiology, being hooded by C.J. Malanga. Carly K. Hoffman, School Psychology, being hooded by Barbara H. Wasik. Felicia Gibson, School Psychology, being hooded by Barbara Wasik. Daniel Mark Lehman, Philosophy, being hooded by Mark Lang. Finur Ulf Delson, Philosophy, being hooded by Mark B. Lang. Tianmin Wen, Chemistry, being hooded by David Niesewitz. Michelle Reiner, Chemistry, being hooded by David Niesewitz. Deckel Jonte Hill, Educational Leadership, being hooded by Eric Hauk. Christopher Todd Lofries, Educational Leadership, being hooded by Eric Hauk. Chelsea Jacqueline Phillips, Political Science, being hooded by Thomas M. Carsey. Scott Christopher O'Brien, Political Science, being hooded by Thomas M. Carsey. Hannah Kleider, Political Science, being hooded by Thomas M. Carsey. Florian Stockel, Political Science, being hooded by Thomas M. Carsey. Kyung-hee Yang, Pharmaceutical Sciences, being hooded by Kim L.R. Brower. Ryan Bullis, Pharmaceutical Sciences, being hooded by Jean Liu. Kazim Siri Chandraharajati, Pharmaceutical Sciences, being hooded by Jean Liu. Catherine E. Hacker, Genetics and Molecular Biology, being hooded by Ian Davis. Joseph Falkowski, Chemistry, being hooded by the Provost. Pamela Mullins Reeves, Religious Studies, being hooded by Bart D. Ehrman. Shannon M. Lewis, School Psychology, being hooded by Rune Simeonson. Christina Tenhagen, School Psychology, being hooded by Dr. Rune Simeonson. Kathleen Carolyn Reynolds, School Psychology, being hooded by Rune Simeonson. Devin Carey Hubbard, Biomedical Engineering, being hooded by Paul A. Dayton. Lee Burke Mullen, Biomedical Engineering, being hooded by Paul A. Dayton. Paul Stephen Sheeran, Biomedical Engineering, being hooded by Paul A. Dayton. John Thomas Sheridan, Cell and Molecular Physiology, being hooded by Robert Taran. Rachel Marie Leisman, Microbiology and Immunology, being hooded by Robert Taran. Corey Leigh Cusick, Neurobiology, being hooded by Ann Stewart. Sindhu M. Zagoran, Communication Studies, being hooded by Lawrence Grossberg. Janelle Nicole Beckham, Communication Studies, being hooded by Lawrence Grossberg. David Charles Soup Montgomery, Communication Studies, being hooded by Christian Lungberg. Jennifer Soup Montgomery, Religious Studies, being hooded by Randall Stiers. Megan Goodwin, Religious Studies, being hooded by Randall Stiers. Shayanika W. Rose, Health Behavior, being hooded by Kurt Ribisel. Allison Groves, Health Behavior, being hooded by Suzanne Mammon. Marta McCabe, Education, being hooded by Zhulong Rong. Paul A. Gilbert, Health Behavior, being hooded by Eugenia Eng. Lingyan Cheng, Health Behavior, being hooded by Vanji Foshi. Joseph R. Croswell, Environmental Sciences and Engineering, being hooded by the Provost. Nelson Lee, Statistics and Operations Research, being hooded by Vidyadhar Kulkarni. Vincent Michael Gonzalez, Religious Studies, being hooded by Yaakov Ariel. Tessin Thaver, Religious Studies, being hooded by Carl Ernst. Gregory A. Lipton, Religious Studies, being hooded by Carl W. Ernst. Danuka Meherani da Silva, Pathology, being hooded by Young E. Wong. Mokita Ramesh Patel, Epidemiology, being hooded by Annelies Van Rie. Megan F. Vaughn, Epidemiology, being hooded by Stephen Meshnick. Nicole L. Davis, Epidemiology, being hooded by William C. Miller. Wendy Lunsford Stakisiewicz, Education, being hooded by Jocelyn Glazier. Laura Gutman, Education, being hooded by Jocelyn Glazier. Ashley Summer Boyd, being hooded by Jocelyn Glazier and Julie Justice. Sarah Kate Robb Allman, Education, being hooded by Julie Justice. Raquel Alexandra Berger, Microbiology and Immunology, being hooded by Jennifer Webster Sirici. Jennifer Grace Job, Education, being hooded by Linda Stone. Eric A. Benson, Education, being hooded by Karen A. Erickson. Amanda K. Bach, Education, being hooded by Karen Erickson. Kedua Ferrat, Epidemiology, being hooded by Anna Maria Segaritz. Monique Ahini Amamo, Epidemiology, being hooded by Geraldo Heise. Mehul Patel, Epidemiology, being hooded by Wayne Rosamond. Ja-An Lin, Biostatistics, being hooded by Amy Herring. Bethany Jablonski Horton, Biostatistics, being hooded by Amy Herring. Jennifer Clark, Biostatistics, being hooded by Amy Herring. Jingzhou Biostatistics, being hooded by Amy Herring. Shelley Dawn Ellis, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by Morris Weinberger. Lindsay Haynes Maslow, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by Morris Weinberger. Catherine Massey, English, being hooded by Jane Threlkill. Ashley K. Reed, English, being hooded by Jane Threlkill. Jessica Sarah Powell, Education, being hooded by George Noblet. Amy Elizabeth Swain, Education, being hooded by George Noblet. John Justin Milner, Nutrition, being hooded by Melinda A. Beck. Jonave E. Campbell, Education, being hooded by Rita O'Sullivan. Jamie Nicole Campbell, Biochemistry and Biophysics, being hooded by Kevin Slepp. Madisa Bernay Macomb, Toxicology, being hooded by Suzanne E. Fenton. Naomi Chana Brownstein, Biostatistics, being hooded by Jianwen Kai and Eric Blair. Wang Yu Li, Statistics and Operations Research, being hooded by Jianwen Kai. Hani Lee, Biostatistics, being hooded by Michael G. Hudgens and Jianwen Kai. Lan Lu, Biostatistics, being hooded by Michael G. Hudgens. Naeem Ur Rashid, Biostatistics, being hooded by Wei Sun. Yunfei Wang, Biostatistics, being hooded by Wei Sun. Eugene G. Urrutia, Biostatistics, being hooded by Wei Sun. Stephanie Adair Rispoli, English, being hooded by Reed Barber. John Douglas Callaway, Genetics and Molecular Biology, being hooded by Fernando Pardo Manuel de Villena. John Didion, Bioinformatics and Computational Biology, being hooded by Fernando Pardo Manuel de Villena. Monica Jolles, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by Brian Weiner. Sarah Rubin Jacobs, Health Policy and Management, being hooded by Brian Weiner. Patrick Emmett Horn, English, being hooded by Jennifer Ho. Aaron Hobbs, Biochemistry and Biophysics, being hooded by Sharon Campbell. Karthik Veeraswamy Natarajan, Business Administration, being hooded by Jayashankar M. Swaminathan. Aaron Ratcliffe, Business Administration, being hooded by Jayashankar Swaminathan. Jing Zhou, Material Science, being hooded by Sergei Sheko. Lakulish Shailesh Santani, Computer Science, being hooded by Dinesh Manoka. Jia Pan, Computer Science, being hooded by Dinesh Manoka. Jonathan M. Duncan, Geography, being hooded by Larry Band. Jessica Kate Levy, Maternal and Child Health, being hooded by Sian Curtis. Kelly Catherine Strutz, Maternal and Child Health, being hooded by John Hussey. Christopher Andrew Lavender, Chemistry, being hooded by Kevin Weeks. Meredith Marie Malburn Wade, English, being hooded by Maria de Guzman. Christine Marie Wadowski, Pathology, being hooded by Monty S. Willis. Sarah E. Marsh, English, being hooded by Jean Moskal. Rebecca Nesbitt, English, being hooded by Jean Moskal. Jenna Abdullah Al Fuhaid, English, being hooded by Jean Moskal. Elizabeth A. Proctor, Bioinformatics and Computational Biology, being hooded by Alexander Tropsha. Yen Lo, Environmental Sciences and Engineering, being hooded by Alexander Tropsha. Stephen James Bush, Bioinformatics and Computational Biology, being hooded by Alexander Tropsha. Hai-Sung Han, City and Regional Planning, being hooded by Daniel Rodriguez. Louis R.E. Merlin, City and Regional Planning, being hooded by Daniel Rodriguez. Christopher D. Sproul, Toxicology, being hooded by Marilla Cadero Stone. Scott Hausworth, Environmental Sciences and Engineering, being hooded by Cass Miller. Amanda Jean Moffett, Physics, being hooded by Sheila Kanapan. Lana Isabel Catalino, Psychology, being hooded by Barbara Fredrickson. Mackenzie Pergolotti, Occupational Science, being hooded by Ruth Humphrey. Emily Fergang Kircher, Occupational Science, being hooded by Ruth Humphrey. Sumita Satish Rege, Occupational Science, being hooded by Ruth Humphrey. Ashley C. Freuler, Occupational Science, being hooded by Grace Baranek. Jessica K. Pepper, Health Behavior, being hooded by Noel T. Brewer. Emily A. Elstad, Health Behavior, being hooded by Noel Brewer.
What a talented group of graduates we have here with us today. We welcome you with open arms into the community of scholars. Please join me again in applauding these students. Now, I would like to acknowledge the special bond that's formed between students and faculty at the graduate level. A big part of the students' success, and I'm sure they'd agree, is due to their faculty mentors. The faculty at Carolina takes their role as mentors very seriously, and it's the mentoring role that makes today's ceremony so special. Exceptional faculty members provide a supportive environment that brings forth the very best from the students they mentor. They encourage graduate students to establish their own record of scholarly activity. They achieve a successful record of graduate degree completion among the students they advise. To honor this exceptional commitment, this exceptional level of faculty commitment, the Graduate School presents an annual Faculty Award for Excellence in Doctoral Mentoring. The number of nominations we received from doctoral students and the content of those nominations was an affirmation of our faculty's dedication to graduate students. There's no way that I can adequately express my appreciation to the faculty who mentor our graduate students. So I will simply say thank you for all you do for graduate education on this campus. Your dedication is remarkable. Please join me in congratulating our mentors. The recipient of this year's Faculty Award for Excellence in Doctoral Mentoring is Dr. Marilee Gammon. Marilee, will you please come up to the stage? Dr. Gammon is a professor in the epidemiology program in the Gillings School of Global Public Health. She has successfully mentored over 20 students who are now working in academia, government, industry, and the private sector. Each of these individuals is making impactful and important contributions to their fields. Due to Dr. Gammon's guidance, her mentees have all obtained external funding, are involved in additional research activities external to their dissertation work, thereby establishing collaborations, interdisciplinary networks, and strong publication opportunities. Dr. Gammon's nomination came from an alumnus as well as a graduate candidate who was hooded today. Each nomination articulated her outstanding generosity, supportive environment, and intentional goal of fostering independent scholarly records and successful degree completion. In the words of her nominators, she exceeds all expectations for being a graduate and specifically doctoral mentor. Marilee is completely dedicated to the success of her students, cares about their overall well-being, and is personally vested in their future. What I appreciated most about her was that she treated me like a collaborator, a peer, and equal. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Marilee Gammon on receiving the 2014 Award for Excellence in Doctoral Mentoring. Now, a final charge from the graduate school before you go. Graduates, you've been recognized today for your successful completion of doctoral studies, a process that all of you knows takes years of commitment and self-discipline. I ask that you take that commitment to excellence and go out into your community, whether it's here in North Carolina, or across the United States, or across the oceans, and make your community a better place for its citizens. Lend your passion and knowledge to your community and watch it grow and prosper. I want to mention that the university-wide commencement ceremony will occur tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. in Kenan Stadium, and you are all welcome and, in fact, encouraged to attend.
Congratulations, graduates. Welcome to the Academy. We are so proud that you chose Carolina for your doctoral studies. This is my first hooding ceremony here, and I can't tell you how proud I feel to be the chancellor of this university with all of you graduating from here today. It's just a fantastic feeling. A lot of people have great belief in you. And they believe in you, they believe in the work that you're going to accomplish, and they believe in your promise. And they support it in so many ways. And of course, we're immensely grateful to the taxpayers of the state of North Carolina, each of whom invests in your future. And we're very indebted to the federal government. It also is investing in your future as the promise for our nation, and a host of philanthropic people who give to see you be able to accomplish what we do. And we all know that you're going to repay those investments over and over with a lifetime of giving and learning and creating. But we also want to thank those people, and I'm going to come to that in a moment so we can think about that one more time. But I'd first like to start by asking you to join me with thanking Jeffrey Fuchs, the director of the university bands, and the student musicians who have been playing today. And of course, to the incredible singer, Wesley Miller. Thank you. Now, I know that I can speak now for my faculty colleagues. The day that our students receive their doctoral degrees is really a special day. We're so excited about what you've achieved. It's such an amazing accomplishment. But as I was looking at the faces of all the graduates and their mentors coming across the stage, I was thinking there might be a bit of a contest between the family's smiles and the mentors' smiles as to who is most proud and most excited about the accomplishments that you have all been rewarded and seeing today. So I want to have a big thanks first for the doctoral degree candidates. One more of those. We want to thank Carolina's own Dr. Beatley for an incredible address. Thank you. Okay, so now graduates, this is your time. You are in the Dean Dome. We have to make lots of noise here. I'd like all the advisors, the family, the friends to all stand up. And we are all going to thank you for supporting all that they have done. Thank you. Woo! Now, everybody, please stand for the singing of our alma mater.
Hark the sound of Tar Heel voices ringing clear and true, singing Carolina's praises, shouting NCU. Hail to the brightest star of all, clear its radiant shine. Carolina, priceless gem, reveal your rays is thine. I'm a Tar Heel born, I'm a Tar Heel bred, and when I die, I'm a Tar Heel dead. So it's rah rah Carolina, Lina, rah rah Carolina, Lina, rah rah Carolina, Lina.
you.